Hello and welcome to Fatboss Weekly Season 2, Episode 18.
Hello.
And for the people who don't know, Fatboss Weekly is mine and Loz's weekly news show where we talk about a bunch of WoW news as any other sort of gaming news that is important to us.
And to kick it off, over the past week there's been a new blog post come up on the WoW website discussing Siege of Orgrimmar and how it's going to work in 6.0, because obviously there's going to be the new introduction of the new raiding layout.
Oh, right.
As well as any other changes that they're planning on doing with certain achievements and all that sort of shit.
Cool.
So, the post states that flexible difficulty will no longer exist. It will be removed from the raid interface queue. You won't be able to sign up for it anymore. And it will be replaced by the normal difficulty, which we're going to be seeing in Warlords of Draenor, which is flexible anyway.
Yeah.
And the current normal difficulty will be turned into heroic.
Which is also flexible.
Which is also flexible and is going to remain as the same as it is now. They are going to be introducing the group finder tool in 6.0, which is good news. It's going to be cool to see how that works, and it's also going to be easier for people to make these normal and heroic flexible groups, as well as other cross-realm content, which is excellent. And of course, heroic content is now going to be renamed Mythic.
Yes.
And with that, all achievements that you have, so if you have killed Malkorok on heroic, it will be renamed to Mythic Malkorok as an achievement name. So that's how that's going to work. So they are completely revamping Siege of Orgrimmar so that they can do these changes, so people do get an experience of the new raid layout before the expansion actually comes out.
That's a really, really important thing to do, I think, by Blizzard, because otherwise you will be lobbed into a completely new expansion where you have to, like, there's so many more new things, like, you don't really want to have to worry about the systems in place to get into raid, you know?
Exactly,
You just want to be like, oh, look, I can't fly anymore, better kill myself. Like, you want to be able to do that instead of rather, like, just worrying about everything. So I think it's really good that they are introducing that early.
And just for people to know, with the introduction of 6.0, they are going to be removing the feat of strengths for the head of the curve and cutting edge for killing Garrosh. They're no longer going to exist. You need to try and get them before 6.0, which means the Corcoran Wolf, which I'm sure most of you guys have got anyway now, but sure there's some people who still don't. You guys need to try and get before 6.0 comes out. But 6.0 still has no release date. They haven't said anything about it.
It will be like a month or two before Warlords actually comes
well, they did
out.
actually say that it'd be 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, okay, well, there you go, exactly.
So, yeah,
so
that's all they have said.
So it'll come out probably sometime next July.
Now, one thing that they did talk about in this post, which I thought was pretty interesting, was that the drop rate of heirlooms from Garrosh on normal, heroic, and on mythic difficulty will be increased significantly, and they're actually going to make it so the first time you kill those bosses in those particular difficulties is a guaranteed drop.
For your tier as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
for your class.
For whatever your loot specialization is. So if you do go in there, you'll instantly get it. Which
that's kind of nice, to be honest.
Well, because it's going to... That patch will only be sort of live for 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks before Warlords of Draenor actually hits. That does give players the opportunity to get those heirlooms so they can start leveling immediately. And even if you do kill it in the first week, get your heirloom, they're also increasing the chance of it dropping afterwards. They're increasing that by quite... Well, they just said significantly, so I assume quite a lot. So the chance of you getting other heirlooms, as well as the one for your primary spec, is going to be pretty fucking high.
That's really good, to be honest, because I've done Garrosh on heroic quite a few times now. In all fairness, I did get the bow, which I was really happy about. Awesome, but I haven't really got anything else off of it. So I think it would be nice to be able to grab other shit off of him.
Yeah, I think on Garrosh heroic, I've only ever had the staff.
Yeah.
I think I've had 3 staffs or something ridiculous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've only had 1 bow. That's the only thing I've got from
But I mean,
him on heroic anyway.
The current drop rate is very low. I mean, every time we kill it, I mean,
3 people get it?
Maximum of 3 people, usually. Sometimes no one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be going up a lot. I doubt it will apply to people who already have the heirloom. So if you've already looted a heroic Garrosh heirloom, when they bring this in, you won't immediately get a new one on your first kill, unless you get lucky.
Well, you don't know.
I assume that's how they're going to do it, but maybe they won't.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But they did say that when Warlords of Draenor is released, so you can actually go and level up past level 90, pretty much Garrosh will no longer drop any heirlooms ever again. And the Corcoran Juggernaut mount, which he drops like every single time. On 25 man, I know he drops 2 each time.
Yeah, and on 10 man it's 1, yeah.
The drop rate will be like completely destroyed down to the like levels of Mimron's head and Invincible and all that kind of stuff.
Invisible, yeah.
Yeah, Invisible. But they did say that all other loot, achievements, cosmetic rewards like the transmog sets and the rare battle pets and stuff, that will remain in there still. So if you do want to go in there,
that'll remain completely unchanged. The drop rate will be still the exact same. So, yeah, good stuff. I mean, I think the heirloom changes is a good thing. I think it's a little unfair that the heirlooms are completely RNG. Yeah. I think going there and getting it on your very first kill, I think that's really, really nice. Especially that it's in each difficulty. because it still encourages people to progress, even though it's only like the last 4 to 6 weeks, as they put it.
Yeah, there's
It
nothing
could be
wrong with
slightly
that.
longer,
People
though.
still want to get that boss down before the expansion comes out.
It's also in Flex as well, which is really nice. So you can grab them in Flex, and then you can maybe consider getting them in Heroic as well. But yeah, I think that's a really, really good change overall.
Yeah. So our friends over at FinalBoss TV have been very busy recently.
They have.
They've been doing some amazing interviews with developers. They had a couple on before, and they recently had an interview with WatcherDev, who's like pretty much the lead developer now. He's kind of taken over. So that's really, really awesome, and lots of information came out about Warlords of Draenor. So we thought we'd kind of bundle it up for you, but it's very much worth going to watch that as well. So we'll make sure we leave
there is a link
as
in the
well.
description, so you can go watch the full thing. It's about 2 hours long.
First off, that they are not planning any vehicle fights in Warlords of Draenor. I'm not even buying it anymore. I've set my computer on fire. Come on, Blizzard. You know the best thing about this game is vehicle fights.
Yeah,
I'm so glad they're not doing it. Come on.
I think they've learned from it.
Yeah, they're generally pretty fucking shit.
And on top of that, there is no plan for any mythic-only bosses right now.
So like Raden and Sinestra, that kind of boss.
Yeah, he did actually say that they plan on doing stuff like that with larger raid zones, where the initial raid zones aren't going to be massive by any means. I think High Mall, it was supposed to be 4 bosses, or was it 5 bosses, but they made it 6 or 7. I can't remember off the top of my head. I probably should have worked that out before we made the But anyway, and Blackrock Foundry is slightly bigger, so they could potentially do something with that. But there are no plans for them to do anything with that just yet. But they did say that it doesn't mean that they're not going to go do it in the future. And there is also no plans for any limited attempt bosses for the first tier of Warlords of Draenor right now.
So, like, if you remember, like, in Ice Crown, like, you...
With all the separate wing bosses,
Yeah.
and with Lich King, and obviously in Mist, you had it with Raden.
Yeah. So if you fucked up too many times, it was, it was just like, oh, you
Well,
can't do it
the
anymore.
interesting thing, he said that they're good and they're bad. The reason why they're good is because it encourages players to actually slow down a bit.
And think.
Like the top guilds. It slows them down and they actually have to think about it. But it also encourages top guilds to use a load of fucking ults just to waste attempts, which is as he pointed out, which is what people used to do in ICC.
Yeah.
They get your Putricide and they go, right, everyone log your ults, we're going to learn the fight on your ults, and then when we actually want to kill it, and we actually, you know, like, we're happy with all the DPS and everything, we'll then log over to mains.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you could waste loads and loads of attempts.
Just trying to work out why is the boss throwing a big orange ball at me. Because, like, especially with Raden, there wasn't any, what's it called, dungeon journal on him. And, of course, back in Cataclysm, there wasn't
with
really
Raden, it was a
dungeon
completely
journal.
separate situation because you couldn't go to Raden on ults. You wasn't going to learn anything because
That's
the
true.
requirements were so high. I mean, there was no guild doing Raden with ults.
Oh, right, okay.
Because it's all the same ID. There's no way people like Paragon, for example, who are on Raden, what was it, 3rd week or 4th week or something? I can't remember off the top of my head. Either way, they got to him very, very quickly. But they barely scraped through Lai Shen on their mains. There's no way they could do it on fucking ults.
That's true.
So, and if they did go with the ults into that ID, they'd just be wasting their main attempts. So, yeah. But there is no plans for any bosses to have limited attempts. But they did point out they did work well on fights like Lich King, because you couldn't bring ults to that Evo. It was in a similar boat to Raden.
Yeah, I guess.
So they might potentially do it. I mean, to be honest, I kind of like that. I like the limited attempts idea because it isn't about how much you raid, but how good your raiders are when you get to that boss.
That's true.
That's when potentially the competition gets a little bit more to it, in my opinion. But there we go.
They also talked about, like, where is beta plus give, but they did say that they're mainly working on the intro experience at the moment. So, like, and they want players to test out that intro experience first. So what they're doing, they're kind of like, yeah, hold on. They have got a shit ton of other content, they said, but they just want to get that intro experience all sorted out. So I guess we're waiting on them for that.
And Watcher did also touch on how Flex is most likely going to be 10 to 30 rather than 10 to 25. Because one moment Blizzard said, yeah, it's going to be 10 to 25, then it was 10 to 30, then it could actually be even more than 30, but it looks like they're sticking to the 10 to 30 idea, and it kind of depends on how it plays on beta and how people's clients react to it, how people's PCs are.
Because I'd love it to be like 10 to 30. Because like as we say, and we say quite a lot whenever we talk about any sort of flexible stuff, we're always doing it on the live stream. Well, maybe not as much recently, but we do flexes and stuff like that on the live stream. So having that capability to bring more people, it would be so good.
Yeah.
Blizz, just 35 more. It's better. Doesn't even do anything. Come on, you'll be fine.
And Watcher did also touch on his encounter design and, well, the team's counter design, and they said that they really liked the way that Siegecrafter worked, that the way that players had to sort of work with their environment just rather than just the boss. So obviously the environment being the belt and everything that's going on in the room, and almost the way that you can decide how you want the fight to work for you. So you have multiple choices. They want to continue doing stuff like that. And he did say that we might see more fights where the room is more involved than previous bosses.
I think that was one of the few, like, I think that's the only fight in the whole game where the floor actually moves while you're trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
So that is really cool, and I can really imagine them using more of that. Like, the belt is such a cool idea, even though it's quite fucking scary going on it for the first couple of times, and you're just going to die all the time and everyone will shout at you. It's still a really, really cool idea. So I think, like, more belt-like mechanics would be very cool. Very up for that. It sounds good. Now, Watcher Dev did go on and say that for the first few weeks of Warlords of Draenor, people are going to be doing all the raid difficulties, as many as they can, because they want to get loads of gear, you know?
Yeah.
You just keep running all of them as much as you possibly can. But then once you've kind of done it already, and you've kind of got the base amount of gear, that you are just probably going to go into one difficulty setting, like one difficulty
In his own
area.
words, he said that it should be sufficient to only do one difficulty after the first week of doing all the other different difficulties, which is a good thing for the hardcore raiders, although I'm sure they'd still go back for certain individual items.
Yeah, like if there's an overpowered trinket or something, like they'll definitely go back and keep trying to get all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I think that's.
It's interesting to see how they're going to do that.
Yeah,
but they did say that 5-man heroics would be good enough gear to start raiding.
Yeah,
so
we'll have to see, I suppose.
We'll have to see how that works.
Now, he went on to talk a little bit about the raid structure and how, like, the raids are going to be set out, and he's going to say they're going to be much more non-linear, so thank fuck.
Yeah.
It's so good. So they'd be able to skip bosses that no one particularly wants to do, or no one needs any gear off with, and then just go to this boss, or just go to that boss. Like Firelands, even though Firelands you did have to clear everything in order to get to Ragnaros and stuff, I think it was really, really nice being able to pick and choose which bosses that you wanted to do. Especially, like, when you went into the first week of Heroic, you'd, like, try out a boss, and it was just like, yeah, we ain't going to be able to do this.
Exactly,
Let's go to another boss instead. There isn't a brick wall. Well, there will be eventually, but you can kind of work around it for now and deal with it later.
You can gear on other bosses before you reach the wall.
Yeah. So I think that's really, really good. I think that's the best way of setting out raids.
Exactly. I hate raids where you go every week, especially they're really, really long raids. I mean, that's my only problem. One of the only problems I have with Siege of Orgrimmar is that it's the same every single week. It does not change at all.
Yeah.
Because you have to kill this boss, then this boss, then this boss. Whereas with Firelands, I remember when we were doing the whole 10-man thing in Cataclysm with Quantum, one week we'd start on Rylith, one week we'd start on Shanox, one week, you know, we'd always change. And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you're farming the content for 6 months, it is a fucking big deal. Because you're doing something different every single time. Whereas with Siege of Orgrimmar at TOT, you can't do anything different.
Well, one thing is that in Siege of Orgrimmar, you can choose between going to Spoils and Thok, or just going to Siegecrafter. You can do that. There's that very small difference.
That's true, actually, yeah.
And at the beginning of the instance, you can either clear the left-hand side of the trash or the right-hand, so that's quite a big difference.
We actually went on the right-hand side.
I made everyone go on the right-hand side last
And everyone was
raid.
spooked.
And everyone was on, what the fuck's going on?
Free spooky 5me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you do have loads of choices, actually, Lawrence, so you're wrong.
I take it back.
Fucking hell.
And he also did say how the raids are actually going to be released in Warlords. The first week we're looking at no raids at all, which is kind of good because, well, I mean, again, we don't know when this is actually coming out. We assume it's coming out on the 23rd of December now, or the 21st, or whenever it is they said.
Probably.
So that's why they're not going to have any raids for the first week, because everyone's going to be having fucking Christmas and shit.
Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
I'm not raiding with a Santa hat on, let's just say that.
Week 2 we'll have normal and heroic, which is the new flex modes, and week 3 will then have the mythic enabled. So it means everyone can relax a little bit. There's no immediate rush to panic level.
Yeah, you just need to get both your characters or one of your characters up to max level and get a full 5-man gear. Yeah, like that's not hard to do. You could probably.
Although they did say that 5-man's going to be more difficult than they have been in the past, which is excellent as well.
Yeah, that's very, very good.
So it looks like there's going to be a lot of things to keep you occupied during that time, but you don't need to panic in the first week to get level 100 so you can start raiding immediately. Yeah, which is excellent. Works better for everyone, I think. And on top of this, he also touched the legendary quest.
Oh, wonderful news. I'm very glad of I love the cloak.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
He was saying how that in TOT, in patch 5.2, the legendary quest worked out really well, because in Throne of Thunder, it was cleared before people got their legendary metagems. The legendary metagem was something that you grabbed like when you were farming afterwards, or if you were in mid-progression, which also meant that the guilds that were behind could catch up.
Yeah, because the
metagem was such a big impact on that instance. However, in 5.4, you could get the legendary on day 1 before you even entered Siege of Ogama Heroic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of not so good, as it were. He said that it wasn't so good. He would have preferred a delay of a few weeks. That was in his own words. I don't think so at all.
Well, I do get what he means, that it's kind of nice to get it like halfway through a tier, because it does provide a catch-up for the guilds, and you've got to try and do it without the cape. So you could say, oh, yeah, we killed everything without the cape.
You could argue that Siege of Ogama, the first 10 bosses, which is regarded by most top-end players as easy, would be slightly more difficult without the cloak.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe they didn't really take into the account that everyone's getting cloak day 1, and they'll just be able to ruffle stomp because of it.
Yeah.
Well,
because
of course,
is so strong.
The top guilds would have ruffle stomped it on normal anyway, but like even on heroic,
on
people
heroic,
ruffle,
I mean, yeah,
people ruffle stomped it as well. So like for the first like 9 or 10, there wasn't really much issue. Yeah, that's a good point actually. But yeah, I think it's kind of nice that I don't know. I'm not really sure if I like the Throne of Thunder one more. I think I do.
I think I do.
Where you get it a little bit later on.
Yeah, well, the top end guilds finish it without needing the gem. And then all the other guilds can start catching up because they eventually get the gem.
Yeah.
And the gem carries them.
Yeah, I suppose so.
If that was in Siege of Ogama, then the cloak could carry people. But cloak was on day 1, people just destroyed the instance.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And he did say that the way that the legendary quest chain worked on ults wasn't so great. And I'm so glad they picked up on this, because I feel quite passionate about this.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that you need the cloak for you to be useful. And if you like, for example, if you get the level 90 boost now, that character is fucking garbage.
For like 3 months.
For like 3 months.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be garbage for 3 months. It should be garbage until you actually start raiding and getting gear on it. Yeah. Whereas you can go to Siege of Ogama Heroic, get full biz, and you're still garbage because you don't have the cloak and you don't have the metagem.
You'll still be okay, but you wouldn't be as good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's 100% true. So he did actually say that they are going to look into making it so like ults can skip it in the future once
if they
done
decide
parts.
to do it.
Yeah, if they are going to put a legendary quest in. So yeah, that's really, really good news. Good job, Blizzard. An even better job, Garrisons, Lawrence. So I was talking a little bit about Garrisons. He touched on our old little houses.
Yep.
The beautiful, beautiful houses is very good. But one thing that I found very interesting is having a garrison is mandatory.
Yeah.
But what you do with it is up to you. So it seems like what you're going to need to do, I kind of anticipated this a little bit, that it's going to be a quest like halfway through, like you need to do this quest in order to progress, and it'll be like, go make a garrison, and you go make a garrison, and then it's kind of like, garrison's really cool, but you don't need to worry about it anymore if you don't want to.
I've got a feeling you're not going to be able to access the rest of Draenor until you finish a garrison quest.
Yeah.
And then literally as soon as that's done, they'll be like, yeah, you can now leave it, let it rot, let all your NPCs die from starvation, let your dog die.
Wow.
Go out in the world, or you can look after it.
Fair enough.
Which is like important, because like I touched on when we did actually initially discuss garrisons, that it would be a big problem if you had to deal with your garrison, you had to do the quest there, because if you don't like the concept of it and you don't like the idea of it, why the fuck should you have to do it?
Yeah.
Just to level 100, unless you want to kill the same mob over and over again. So, yeah, it looks like they're doing it the right way.
But they also did say that if you are leveling through dungeons, like, so a lot of people on release, you get, like, full rested experience and you go do dungeons maybe the first couple of levels. Of course, you'll probably outscale that zone by then, but they did say you can catch up with it later. So, that's a thing, which is pretty good. He also went on and said that garrisons are actually going to be useful, Lawrence. Not just, oh, look at my farm, it's beautiful. It's actually going to offer some normal raid quality gear, and maybe even some heroic raid quality items.
So that's the flexes, before anyone gets confused.
Yeah, not mythic.
Only the flexes.
But that'll be towards the end of the raid tier. So it could even be used, your garrison could be used as a catch-up mechanic throughout the entire expansion.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really good. Instead of having to like, oh shit, people need to catch up quickly, make a new daily hub or make a new island
That's
or something.
exactly what they're trying to do, because they did say that they do not want to do the whole 5-man hub. They don't want people to think that they have to log on that day and have to go do their dailies or have to farm Valor every single week. So that's what the garrison's going to be there for, is a catch-up mechanic. It has to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of any other catch-up mechanic unless they bring in some sort of token system like they did in TBC.
Yeah.
But even then, that was kind of similar to how Valor Points is now.
Well, it's pretty much the exact same.
Yeah.
So either way, I think that's really, really good. They also said that Mythic Raiders will be fine if you don't do anything with your garrisons.
So yeah.
Happy Mythic Raiders
that
for the people who don't give a shit.
It reiterates there's going to be a catch-up mechanic.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
And you also don't have to do garrisons on your ult. We did actually talk about this a couple of weeks ago. Because there is actually going to be level requirements to prevent you from having to do stuff on your ults.
So that's just really, really good.
But anyway, that's most of what he said. There is obviously so much more that we've left out, but that's mostly the important shit that was from that interview. If you would like to go watch the full interview, show the Final Boss guys some love as well.
Yeah, they're very cool guys.
Good friends of mine and Alex's. Links in the description. Go watch it. And all that good shit.
Now, moving on to the part of the show, we look at our mail.
You guys know how it works. If you'd like to send in your mail to us on Facebook, Twitter, or on Twitch, there's a chance you'll be featured in next week's show.
And first off, we've got a message in from Mr. Baldwick, and it's actually a normal question this time. So you're
from him?
Yeah, it's normal.
My God.
So he said, given the changes that are planned for Warlords and the removal of various raid cooldowns such as Skull Banner and Stormlash, how do you think this will affect melee DPS? At the moment, there really doesn't seem to be a point in taking melee DPS over a ranged DPS, and if you do, you should either take a rogue or a warrior. How do you think Blizzard should balance it so it is worth taking a melee class rather than just spamming hunters and warlocks? So basically, because most people are getting all their raid utilities removed apart from healers, like melee DPS were amazing at that, weren't they? A lot of melees had very good raid utility. That what kind of made up for them as well.
Made up for them being shit.
Yeah, that's what made up for them being melee. Whereas not every ranged character did have a raid utility spell that could help out. So because they're removing that from melee DPS, it's kind of making melee DPS less and less nice to bring to a raid because they just bring less and less things. You know,
there's a few ways that they can do it. I mean, fundamentally, just so everyone does understand and everyone's on the same wavelength, the reason why melee are worse than range is because ranged can do damage on the move now. Pretty much every single range class can do damage on the move.
They're kind of reducing that anyway.
Which they are reducing. That's the one way of how they're doing it. And melee, they can do their full damage on the move. However, if the boss is moving in a certain way or there's a target that's further away from them, it is damage loss because melee have to move to their targets.
Yeah.
If there's nothing, if the mob's 30 yards away, sure, rogues can shadow step. Other classes can't.
Yeah.
They have to run over and go hit it. During that downtime, they're doing no DPS, whereas a range just stands on the spot, pivots 30 degrees to their right, and then can start targeting the guy on the right.
It basically means, because range can pretty much attack everything all the time, melee have to run around like headless chicken. So then, like, on fights like Malkorok, like patchwork-esque fights, where you're just a target dummy fight sort of thing and dealing with basic mechanics, like, melee are
potentially
fine. Yeah, and they normally do really well.
Yeah.
They normally do really, really well. Like, Thok first phase, melee do amazing. Fuck second phase.
They can't go near
Don't even bother bringing any melee anymore.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness, they have got the jailer to kill, so it's good they actually even added something for them to do. But yeah, it's stuff like that. So it is a problem, I think.
Yeah, so you could either increase melee's DPS, so it's actually higher than range.
Like they've done before.
Which they've done before, but that means you have to design encounters in such a way so melee aren't overpowered. Otherwise, people are just going to stack melee.
Yeah.
But by melee not being overpowered, that also means that you can't really design fights where there's a shit ton of movement and a lot of target switching.
Yeah.
Otherwise, melee become useless.
That's another thing, because melee are all stacked up on top of each other. Like, having movement, there isn't normally as much space to move as there is at range. Because range, you can be much more spread out, whereas as melee, you still have to be huddled around the boss. That's like another disadvantage. So I think that Blizzard kind of just need to keep that in mind, really. Like, I doubt that they'll leave melee DPS completely in the dirt.
Yeah, and it was actually touched in the FinalBoss interview. They did actually discuss the ranged vs melee problem that there is right now, and they're trying to solve it, but how they actually finally decide to solve it is yet to be seen, really. But hopefully, yeah, I mean, how I would do it personally is that I just make it so the encounters are designed for both melee and ranged as cleverly and without making it boring as much as I possibly could, which is a very difficult task on its own. And then I would make it so melee have far more utility. But then obviously that's going to fuck over PvP. I mean, in utility as in movement. So they can, you know, blink more, or shadow step more, or teleport more, or I don't know. I don't know how I would do it. But either way, I'd make it so that was at least a possibility. But yeah, it's a hard one, really.
So yeah, thank you very much for that, Mr. Baldwick.
And the next one comes in from Hattelmeister, who says, "Hey, I was wondering what your thoughts are on making the size of your characters customizable. I play a Broodmaster Panda, and I really like it to be a bit bigger and looking bulkier. So I think that would be a cool idea for Warlords of Draenor. What do you think about that? Is it something you think would be possible and something that would be nice to have in the game? It is definitely technically possible for them to increase your player size in terms of scale, like as in your entire character.
Well, yeah, but
that is definitely possible.
Yeah.
I think it's an excellent idea.
I think that I think the idea is a bit more like, I'll make it so his shoulders are a bit more apart, or he's got a bit of a bigger belly, that kind of thing. A bit more character customization rather than skin color. Has he got a beard?
I think
what
the
color's the beard?
Yeah, I think
his face?
The actual character customization on the like create your character screen, or if you're in the hair salon or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's weak.
It's very weak. There's very little to it. You can't really. I mean, everyone's Goblin's the exact same height. Everyone's Tauren's the exact same height. They're all the exact same body type. They're either all fat, or they're all thin, or they're all stocky, or whatever. If you could change that, I think that would be great.
Yeah, maybe it might be something they're going to bring into
imagine
Warlords,
if you could make a really, really, really small gnome, like an ultra small gnome that's really fat.
That would be amazing. It'd be like a disc flying around on its side. Like in PvP, you just won't be able to click that shit. It's going to be impossible. But yeah, I think it might be something that is technically possible for them to do in Warlords of Draenor, but I think they're mainly focusing on making the characters not look like they're from like 60 years ago at the moment.
Yeah.
So it might be something they add into the future, and I think it would help out quite a lot. It'll make people's characters a lot more unique and stuff. But yeah, I don't think it's going to come anytime soon, to be honest.
Yeah,
but I think it's a very good idea. So thank you very much for that, Hattelmeister. And this next one comes in from Saz on Facebook, who says, first off, I would like to say I love the shows of the guys. Oh, thank you. I do have an unusual question for the both of you. I've been with a semi-hardcore raiding guild for many years now, and after an absence, I have come back to raid with them. We use a DKP system, which prioritizes loot based on attendance, and a couple other little things. I found out that my guild also incorporate the bonus loot roll into your DKP numbers, so if you win a main spec item through the roll, your DKP goes down. I don't agree with it for a few reasons, but I was hoping to get your perspective on it, or if you have any advice on how to tell them that myself and the majority of the guild don't agree with this idea. Thanks, Saz.
Well, to start off, DKP is an old as fuck system, and it doesn't work if you're a guild that's actually trying to progress and actually taking the game seriously. All DKP does is encourage players to show up.
Well, I think that
see, the thing is, right, when I used to be in a guild with DKP, it'd be all about outbuilding other players. You don't work as a team. What you're trying to do is constantly do math behind the scenes and work out how much DKP someone else has, so you can try and outbid them.
Yeah,
that's not the whole point. The gear should go to the person who gets the biggest upgrade and the person who's there the most, so they can actually make the most out of that loot for the guild. So so essentially with that system, players are playing for the guild and not players playing for themselves.
I think the idea of the DKP system as well, it does have an inherent distrust about it.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be with a guild for a long time. You've got to earn your gear, so you're not taking the piss. You just can't come and get a load of gear and then fuck off. Like, it's a very good way for a guild that's very temperamental, having loads of people coming in and out. I don't blame guilds for using it. But what you're saying about if you're lucky enough to get a main spec roll with your bonus coin and that gets taken off your DKP is the most stupid thing I have ever heard.
Yeah, that is absolutely ludicrous. If I was in that guild, I'd just leave straight away.
That is so dumb. Like, that discourages you from coining.
Yeah. It's like, right, guys, we're progressing, but no one use any coins because we don't want your DKP to go down.
Exactly. So, like, there might be a boss, like, you really want to get the trinket, right, off of another boss, but you have a couple more coins. Say you're not going to coin on a boss because you want to save up all of your DKP for a trinket off another boss later. That's fucking stupid. You just go to your guild leader or your raid leader and just tell them this is absolutely ridiculous. Just explain to them why it's bad, why it discourages people from coining because they're trying to save up their DKP in order to get, like, trinkets. Trinkets are so fucking important. I'm just using trinkets as an example, or maybe tier shoulders or something like that. So it discourages people from coining on bosses that is kind of like a minor upgrade.
It's just not good for progression.
No, it's not, especially if you're progressing.
I mean, if anything, if you are going to do something with DKP with coins, you should make it every time a player coins, they get DKP.
Yeah, it encourages people to bloody bring the thing. It gives free gear.
Exactly, you should encourage people to coin so they get gear, not like discourage them and punish them.
Exactly. But I don't know really how you're going to track people coining. Is there an add-on for that?
Probably.
So you can see if, like, they coined at all?
I don't know, maybe you'd need a screenshot or something.
I don't know.
Although that would be loads of management. Who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. Either way, it's a stupid fucking system. Just slap them in the face.
Yeah, exactly. Or just send them our way, and we'll say, that's silly, that is. Just stop it.
What?
So thanks for watching, guys. That's all we've got time for this week. If you do want to be featured in next week's show, then do make sure you send in your questions on Facebook, Twitter, and on Twitch. All those links are in the description below, as well as any other links about stuff we've talked about today, including the FinalBoss TV interview as well. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will see you soon.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.